Welcome back, everybody. Let's take a break. Take a break with Stephen Shamus.
Welcome, Alex. Good to be back. Thank you. Today we have our second special guest.
That's right.
This is actually becoming a little bit of a recurring theme. I'm enjoying having these special guests on the show. At some point, we will get back to talking CGC, straight up comic books. I agree. But these are a nice little break, and people really seem to enjoy the CGC with Matt Nelson. So today we'd like to welcome Anthony Snyder from Anthony's Comic Book Art. Thank you, Anthony, for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. You know, I've known you all the way back.
Oh my God.
Well, you were coming to Carbo's church shows, right?
Oh my God.
Back in the day?
At least the early 90s, at least.
Right? Yeah, so I've been in business full time for like 25 years now. So, and I know you're a Batman fan and a good art collector too. You've been ordering from me. Thanks for that last order. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alex knows I have just a little bit of an obsession with collecting stuff. Everybody makes fun of me because I have all this stuff, but when you come into my house, unlike your house, which you have some cool stuff behind you, which I want to see. I have nothing on the walls. Alex is in his man cave.
Yep.
Anthony, you have some cool stuff on the wall. Anthony, why don't you share with us, what do you have going on behind you? What do you got going on back there?
Well, I'm at home right now, so this is my living room, so it's kind of more like family-friendly stuff. I love Nick Cardy and the 20th century era Superman, so there was a Nick Cardy commission of Superman, and he did a montage of paste-ups, and that's just nostalgic to me because I used to have some like heavy-hitting like inventory, but I've had to do deals on a lot of those really big pieces. So this is, decorative. I call this decorative. Although I do have the very first cover I ever got over here. It's hard to over this way. Over this way. That's a Bill Sienkiewicz I Am Spider-Man cover that he did after Egon Schiele, which I'm a big fan of Schiele art. So, he was from Austria, and I was in Austria for a couple of months once and just hung out at that museum where they just have Gustav Klimt and Egon Schiele, and he did it after Egon, and I still love that piece. And then there's a poker-related piece, that I was pretty serious about poker, for a few years because my dad helped invent the World Series of Poker, and that's in my blood. I mean, you talk about collecting. I mean, we get this that's in our blood. It's in our heredity. Everybody in my family was a collector. They collected something, and I had a full Silver Age collection by the time I was going into 8th grade.
Wow.
That was, I was 12 years old, and I did have some seed money from my dad, but I was hustling. My side hustle at the time was like I would sell stuff at school and amongst my friends. And then the comic book store opened in Las Vegas and like around when I was 10 years old, I guess. And I was getting back issues, and the guy just sold them by, a 12-center is $1. There was no grading at the time. And I had this entire checklist by the time I was going into eighth grade of all the Marvels and all the DCs, one up.
So it's interesting you bring up your first piece as Bill Sienkiewicz, because I remember going with my dad to San Diego Comic-Con back in 1989. And if you remember back then, Alex, you probably don't remember back then. But
your dad probably had to hold your hand, right? I mean, you were a little kid.
I was a little kid. And back then, artists like Todd McFarlane and Bill Sienkiewicz were just sitting in Artist Alley, like regular, like you would see guys in Artist Alley today, which is kind of unthinkable. And my dad bought the cover to Wolverine 10 from Bill, which at the time, I think it was like 150 or like 200, which was a crazy amount of money to spend on a cover. And my dad sold it at the Heritage Auction 7 years ago when he released the entirety of his collection. That was one of my favorite pieces forever. And I remember Bill at the time, it had all these snowflakes in the background.
Yeah, it's Wolverine and Sabretooth fighting in the snow. Mm-hmm. And that's the issue where he goes, I'm your dad, or whatever, the controversial, like, is Sabretooth Wolverine's father thing.
Yeah,
right?
And Bill said, yes, and Bill said to us, I said, we said to him, because again, you don't see that, at the time, obviously the comic books come out and they're printed. And I said to Bill, I said, how did you get all these snowflakes? And what he used to do is he used to take Now, again, this is 1989. You were not as sophisticated with the materials today. He would take white out, where you remember the old white out where you would have it like
sure, and with a brush and just flick it.
With a brush, and he would flick it, and that's how he made snow. Right?
Yeah.
Good
now,
call.
Now it's just a tool in Photoshop.
That I know. But Bill was a master even back then. Using some of the tricks. So Anthony, let me get right into it. Let's get right into it with you. So the market evolves, right? Obviously over the years, there's different artists that come out. It goes, there's Alex Ross, there's Jim Lee, there's Todd McFarlane. What is the market like today versus what you saw maybe 5 to 10 years ago in terms of what you're selling? What are people asking you for? Are they asking you for the TV characters? Are they asking you for the film characters? Are they looking for the classic characters? Is it a mixture? What are you seeing in terms of the trends today versus say 5, 10 years ago?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest major trend is that, Marvel movies stimulate the market for that character unlike anything else. I mean, DC stuff comes and goes, and it doesn't really leave a mark or resonate with the fans like, there's an announcement at Marvel, and like all of a sudden, you can go back to Iron Man. I mean, come on, Iron Man was a third string character, and it was like, it sold a little bit, not very much. Maybe there was a fan here or there. But when Iron Man came out, that made him a first string character. Daredevil was a dead character until the Netflix series. I mean, and then Daredevil started to sell. I mean, they've revived these characters and put them in the forefront of the collecting market, and especially Black Panther amongst people of color that went back and saw that movie, 4 and 5 times. It's one of the biggest domestic box offices ever for a Marvel movie. And I mean, Black Panther was just not, that revived that character in the collecting market. So, I mean, the biggest trend, the biggest phenomenon with the past few years has been the Marvel movies re-energizing and rejuvenating and stimulating the market for those characters that are coming out. And it's happening this week with New Mutants and Magic. Everybody's like, oh, you got any Magic stuff? Got any Magic art? That the trailer's running, and that I don't know the name of the actress, but she's like,
oh yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yep.
Oh yeah, she looks great in the trailer, and the theaters are opening again, so let's hope that there's a response to theater goers, because like the lockdown's been tough. I'm in North Jersey, and it was harder here than other places, and it's getting better all the time. So we're looking forward to being able to do something, go to movies, and enjoy our family time.
Yeah, I would tell you also, and Alex, I think you also enjoy the Doom Patrol show. It's a great show on TV. And I do see, I know you're talking about DC. Some of the TV shows are pretty good, The Boys and Warrior Nun. And it's funny because even when, even with Ali Garza, when Ball and Chain came out, I said, hey, Ali, you got any original art? He's like, no, long gone, 20 years ago. So, even, as they're announcing these things like Doom Patrol, I watched the show. I really, really enjoyed it. I went out and I bought a Pharrell Dalrymple cover from Doom Patrol. So, there definitely, I even find myself getting sucked in sometimes. Like, wow, I really enjoyed that show or movie. Let me go get a piece of art. So, Anthony, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
so, definitely that's the biggest trend of the past few years is that Marvel announcements, Marvel movies, stimulating market for those characters.
So do you find that, and I think this was true maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago. Is it true today? I think 5, 10, 15 years ago, it was like, oh, I need the new Jim Lee stuff. I need the new Todd McFarlane stuff. I need the new Mark Silvestri stuff. Do you find more now when the new artwork is coming out or you're receiving artwork that people are like, hey, Anthony, what do you got in the way of Jim Lee? What do you got in the way of Alex Ross? Or are people calling you saying, I want the new Spider-Man this or the new Venom or the new Carnage? Or is it still a combination of both? Well,
first of all, with my artist that I represent, I represent one of the greats, Esad Ribic, and his stuff has been very strong. There are new collectors coming into the market that want his paintings, his covers, in a big way, and are paying thousands of dollars for them. And his price points are strong. And and what's funny is that one of the first things I ever got from him, because we've been together since he started his career, and he did a Warrior Nun story. And I'm like, hey, dude, the Warrior Nun's coming out, and people are talking about it. You got any stuff left of that? And he's like, oh, no, man, I threw that away. I don't even know. I don't even know where it was, because I had maybe a piece or two, and he lives in Croatia, and I don't think, anybody, cared until yesterday. That's another example of how, media projects can stimulate interest in characters and stuff like that. So Essad's been, he's been doing covers for Marvel now, and doing the, summer event covers and stuff like that. And he's most known for, he got really well known for Thor and his work on Thor. So those painted covers, because people look at color art and paintings as, oh, that's art. That's why there's a bunch of color stuff on my wall in my living room, but, they're recreations or they're specialty pieces. So that has been really strong during the lockdown. We've done a lot of business. I'm waiting for a new package from Essad. I got 20, 30 commissions for him.
Wow.
But, part of that is, your cancellation, right, with Boston and stuff.
Yeah. Don't remind me, please.
Yeah, that really hurt. We were all.
Yeah. You want to kick me in the teeth? You want to kick me in the teeth a little bit more, a little harder?
Well, that affected me too. I mean, that was. And there's no dealer in the country that's been more affected. As a single, owner, sole proprietor type guy, that's been more affected by the shows getting shut down than me. I mean, I've lost so many days, and if you average those days out, those show days to, I've lost a lot of revenues buying and selling, so I would usually do a trip, where we drive, to San Diego, and I would do a pop-up store in Phoenix, Arizona, and that was, I built that market up a little bit there. You do a show there too, right, in Phoenix?
We did a couple of years ago. So Alex, let me ask you something. Mm-hmm. When I collect now, I do sort of a hybrid of what Anthony was talking about. There are artists that I love, like Philip Tan, and I'm like, I got to get a Philip Tan piece. Miko Cyan, I got to get a Miko Cyan piece. Alex, when you're buying new comics at Midtown or you're going to the shop, are you looking at the artists on the cover? Are you looking at the storyline? Are you looking at the characters? What are you doing when you walk into the shop?
Personally, I'm a character guy. So, to me, obviously the writers and the artists have to meld well, but I'm a character guy. I'm a Green Lantern guy. If I'm reading Exo Manowar, if I'm reading
Exo Manowar,
Spider-Man.
Alex, you tell people that?
I got my Louis LaRosa Exo Manowar shirt.
Alex, you admit that to people?
Hey, it's fantastic, especially the last series.
You understand that people are going to watch this podcast, right?
Yeah. And they should read it because it's fantastic. So I'm a character guy, so I collect that stuff. My first piece of art was a Daryl Banks Green Lantern piece because I was a big Kyle Rayner fan and they're on Mars. So, I mean, that's what I went after. I went after the stuff the characters that I like. Yeah,
right now, Anthony, I will tell you some of my favorite stuff is Peach Momoko. I love her variant covers. Damian Scott did a great job in that Ultimate Spider-Man. Sarah Pichelli. There's some great up-and-coming artists that are doing some great stuff out there that I really, really enjoy. So over the years.
Well, that second part of your question earlier was like, what else is going on? It's like with hot stuff, and I mean, and the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse incarnation had. I mean, that's just huge. I mean, that first Spider-Gwen and the first, Spider 2099 and all the different incarnations of Spider-Man have been very stimulated by the success of that show and that movie. And then the announcement of the video game. I mean, even that. I mean, the announcement of a video game was just like boom, and that first Spider-Gwen and first Miles Morales shot up like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, things have settled down, and like I actually did an interview for Variety about would you buy into this market? It's like it was stock, and I'm like, no, this is kind of a surge, because I do I do buy stocks. So, but that's like one stock that I wouldn't have bought into when it surged like over $1,000, and it's kind of settled back now. But the Spider-Verse stuff, because that was the best comic book movie adaptation ever. That was a comic book on screen. It's so good. I loved it.
Yeah, I think Alex, I think you and I talked about Miles Morales more than anybody, anything of all time on the podcast. We've actually mentioned that a bunch of times. And again, it didn't just affect the Miles Morales Spider-Man. It did affect Spider-Gwen, Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham, like each character.
2099.
2099 went crazy. I will tell you, we talked about that 2099 white cover second Toy Biz variant. I got to find one of those copies. That book is impossible.
Set up a Google alert.
Yeah,
I know. Well, yeah, I write up my comics for my eBay store almost every day, and that stuff I'm pushing out there as well. I just found 11 copies of Spidey 2099 #1. It was old store stock. They were all about 8.5s, but not really worth grading, but stuff to put out there, and for $15-$20, and they'll probably sell through in a few days.
Speaking of the value of stuff, that's something that always kind of hits our radar. So, if you've been in this business since 1990s, like I have,
95.
95, right? And Alex has been collecting for a while. You've always got that stuff in your mind. So there's two things that I want to bring up. First of all, have you ever gotten a phone call and somebody goes, hey, I have these comic books, or I have this artwork, I found it in my attic or whatever, and you show up, there's a Fantasy 15, or talk about some of the big finds where somebody called you up and you're like, yeah, whatever, and you go there and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Could you talk about some of that stuff?
Oh yeah, sure. I have 2 brick and mortar locations now, and recently, a guy walked in and said, "Hey, my sister worked for Charlton, and he had 40 painted covers." That was a good deal. Yeah,
wow,
that was cool.
So what was in there? What was in there?
There was, there was a bunch of horror ones, and Supercar, and let's see what else. There was a couple other car ones. I forget the title.
Hot Rods, I think is the title.
Hot Rods, Hot Rods. Yeah, that was it. Hot Rods, and that was a fun deal. And then, I could go way back. When I first opened my warehouse, a guy walked in with a tub, nothing bagged and boarded, and there was an AF-15 in there. There was a Hulk one in there. There was a Spider-Man one in there. There was an Astonish and a Tales Suspense. That was a fun day. They were all low grade, but getting Marvel #1s, that's any day you can buy Marvel #1s is a good day. That's a semi-quote from Mike Carbonaro, who did, I say 95 because that was the first year I actually helped him at a show, at that last Javits show. I think that was 94, 95. So that's really kind of my start date. That was the first show I ever did, was with him at that Javits show the year before it got shut down. Forget whether I was 94, but going back to Valiant stuff, I remember when I moved back to New York with my wife, I'd be walking down the street at West 4th Street, and there'd be these guys selling comics, and the Valiant, that Valiant multi-part storyline was coming out, and I would buy the next issue of that.
Unity.
The Unity saga, Bob Layton wrote, right? Yeah, and that's what kind of got me back into reading. That's what kind of stimulated me back. And then I found a comic book store on 23rd Street, Cosmic Comics, and I started buying those comics. I remember that the elevator opened. I was with my wife. She was going on a casting, and the elevator opened, and I saw Future Imperfect from across the aisle. That cover where that Maestro cover.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I'm like, I liked Hulk when I was a kid, and I walked in there and bought that comic, and I later owned that cover and sold it for 5 figures. That was a great piece. I wish I hadn't have sold that cover, actually, that George Perez Maestro cover. So that's what got me back when we started reading, and I started buying comics, and then we had comic boxes for furniture in our small apartment, and it just grew from there.
So you actually bring up a good point, because Alex and I, we discuss it sometimes, like when Alex was a kid, you had all the Star Wars toys and you threw them in the garbage and you threw them, they melted, they broke, they whatever, right, Alex? We all ruined that stuff.
Firecrackers.
So Anthony, in your years, you know, and I've had this, Alex has had, if you had a do-over on something that you sold 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, oh my God, if I have that Fantasy 15 and a 9.8, or if I had this or that, what were some of the pieces over the years that maybe you had sold that you're like, oh my God, I wish I had that back now. I wish I could do that one over.
Well, IDW put out a book about Marvel covers, and I was just and there was a bunch of those covers that I had sold to people, and you know, they had gotten copies from my customers. But the one that hurts the most was the Spidey 59 cover.
The one that hurts the most. Is that John Romita?
The big John Romita twice up cover with Mary Jane dancing, you know. And that was that was over there on that wall. And, you know, I had the Avengers Defenders crossover cover with Silver Surfer fighting the Vision and knocking him into the volcano. That was Romita finishes too, I believe. And, you know, I was a photographer in New York, and after 9/11, that business kind of went to hell, and this business became more and more a priority. And you know, I needed money to keep things moving, keep things growing, and seed money. And so I would do these deals where I thought, wow, I paid, you know, $2,000 for that. I'm making 10, sometimes 20 times the money, and I'm like, I'm making money on it. I gotta sell this at this point. You know, how much further does it go? But you know, the Spidey 59 cover, I remember I paid $11,000 for that cover. And I did a deal on it for, you know, over 6 figures. And I'm like, oh, I can't afford to keep this, but you know, now it's probably worth, you know, $300,000-$400,000.
Yeah.
So that one stings. That one stings. I know where it is. Maybe if I, you know, if I hit the lottery or a big poker tournament in the future, I'll buy it back.
Anthony, don't feel bad. We've all had stuff when we were kids. We had the Star Wars toys in the package. Alex, when you were a kid, what's your biggest regret of something that you gave away? Sold?
Just all my toys. I feel like I feel like I'm always chasing everything I owned when I was not even just in package, just loose. If I would just kept them loose, I'd be a happy person. But no, they're all gone, trashed and buried in bushes somewhere, like just gone.
Well, I feel the same way about my childhood toys. I was a big Mego guy. I mean, those were the first superhero figures that were coming out. So I was buying the Megos, and I still can't sell them. I probably have 500 Megos laying around my warehouse. I'm not kidding. Yeah, I have so many Megos, I just can't sell them. I'm like, why? I don't want to sell these. Because that pulls on my heartstrings as a kid. And I remember doing a yard sale when I was a kid, and I was selling them for $0.25. Oh my God!
But by the way, a good Mego story for you, Alex. Do you remember when we published Toy Fair magazine?
Of course. Toy Fair?
Yeah. Okay. And do you remember Twisted Mego Theater?
Yes.
Do you know how?
Yeah, that was great. I love that feature. Yeah.
Do you know how many Megos our staff bought and destroyed? I mean, destroyed.
Right? Robot Chicken, that show Robot Chicken is the same thing. They buy a bunch of toys.
Yeah, they started with Megos.
Cut them all up, and then they do it.
So we did Twisted Mego Theater. I mean, I would tell you that we had probably bought up several hundred Megos off the market. And you know, again, when you have a population that's pretty small of what's left over from you know, years gone by, and you're buying them up and then you're destroying them. It's not like you're buying them and you're collecting them. You could sell them one day.
You're helping the Mego industry go up.
Right. I mean, I remember by the time, you know, everything had finished with Toy Fair magazine, that, you know, those toys were in pieces. Like they were just like destroyed. Like there was no resale value at that point. So it is funny how sometimes the market can sort of shrink just from some of these unknown moments. So Anthony, let me ask you this. So in today's market, I mean, I kind of talked a little bit about what I collect. I look for certain artists and certain TV shows or films that I watch. To your point, I just bought a Black Panther piece from you. Like that movie to me had all the themes: brother versus brother, tribe versus tribe. Then the tribes get together and fight an outside force. It had all the themes and all the elements that go back hundreds, if not thousands of years, that, you know, Ryan Coogler did an unbelievable job sort of putting it all into one. I watched Doom Patrol. I buy that. Alex, there's certain shows I'm sure we talk about it all the time, right? Alex, Umbrella Academy. What are some of the
Umbrella
other
Academy?
ones?
Yeah.
Warrior Nun, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I never read that book, but I'm watching the show.
Right.
Yeah.
So Anthony, do you still find yourself buying stuff for yourself? What are you looking for today? What are you buying?
Oh yeah. I still have like a personal collection. I mean, the big covers, you know, that I've done deals with, but what I did collect was storylines that I remembered as a kid, you know, when I was buying comics when I was 9, 10, 11 years old, in that range. So they were 20-cent Marvels. And like the Avengers Defenders crossover, I probably have about 50 pages of that.
Wow.
You know, from the different issues, because that crossover. I still remember going to the 7-Eleven on a Wednesday, you know, to get the next installment of that Avengers Defenders crossover, and there was a bundle in a wire thing. You know, they came in wire bundles back then, and you know, the top ones and bottom ones would get destroyed from this heavy wire bundle that they used to use to ship them. And the guy wouldn't open it. I was like, yeah, you just have to wait. You know, some cranky 7-Eleven guy. And I remember standing there waiting for that next installment. So, I mean, I remember those storylines and certain issues of Marvels and DC's. You know, Spider-Man with the Ross Andru 130s, 140s. Just did a deal to get a page with Doc Ock and Hammerhead on it. Have a great page of Spider Buggy, you know, remember Spider Buggy?
One issue, 2 issues? Yeah.
Yeah,
quick.
the first one, Spider Buggy. I could probably show it to you later. And then, you know, there's certain DC, you know, the DC stories I don't remember, you know, I guess you'd say they were forgettable for me. Not as sophisticated as the Marvel. You know, the Marvel writing. I mean, one of the things that spawned my early collecting was, you know, the continuity of the Marvel stories. Like if you're reading Spidey in the 130s and 140s, and it said back in issue 66, Rascally Roy, you know, or something like that, you wanted to go back and look at issue 66. You know, it's like, so I collected back issues from there, you know, and had Spidey one up and loved it. You know, Captain America, and I have like one of my favorite issues is those book and record editions.
Oh yeah.
So I have the cover to 168 where the Phoenix, and he's on that metal bondage board getting dipped in the lava. I have that cover, and I have a bunch of pages from that issue that I actually got from the inker, John Tartaglione's son, probably 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I've never seen another page since, so I don't know where those are. So Sal Buscema stuff, inked by Frank McLaughlin, who just recently passed away, and was a very sweet guy. I used to try to buy stuff from him anytime I could. So it's all that 20-cent stuff that I remember, and DC covers that I remember. You know, so the Nick Cardis and the Neil Adams.
So is there one piece that you're like, you know what, this is so near and dear to my heart, I could never see myself parting with it?
Well, I've had to exercise that part of my, you know, I cut my heart out on that one. I mean, that Spidey 59 cover would have been it. I mean, I just did a deal for my X-Men 4 splash. I put that in Heritage, and they, you know, Mr. Halpern was after me to get that one, and I did a deal with him on that. You know, I thought it could have done better, but yeah, I did okay on it, you know, but again, you know, I did that deal because, you know, getting shut down from not being able to do shows, I wanted to try to supplement the income.
Yeah, I hear you. Look, you know, when my dad sold his collection back with Heritage in 2013, it's wildly unpredictable. Everyone thought that the Spider-Man 1 cover was going to be the big cover, and then as it turns out, 328 with the Hulk wound up being the big cover of all. It trumped the Spider-Man 1. And I understand why, in terms of the aesthetic and the amount of work and what Todd had to do in that 328 cover and the power of that cover. And interestingly enough, when you talked about the bundles, you know, not too long ago, I actually found a case of 328 sealed. And they didn't use wire back then, but they did use rope. If you remember, they had like the rope. Alex, this is probably predates your days at Midtown.
Bit. Yeah.
When Marvel used to ship the sealed cases, and we got them from Anthony, maybe you remember the distributor Walter Wang owned a distributorship. I think he was in Long Island or Staten Island. And they would send the sealed cases, and the books would be wrapped in like a rope. And no different than what Anthony was saying with The Wire. The top 5 or 6 copies and the bottom 5 or 6 copies would be destroyed by the rope. But back then it was like they were $1, $1.25 cover price. We're like, who cares, right? So we got it. So Anthony, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our fans today before we hop off here?
Plug time.
Well, everybody always asks me, what do you think I should get into and like or invest in or whatever. And I'm always like, buy what you like. You can never go wrong buying what you like. I mean, you're going to make fun of Alex for Exo Man of War, but I love that title. I read that title. That was, I think that besides the Unity, the standalone title of that, the whole company was probably Exo.
Still holds up.
You had Casada art. I mean, come on. That was some of the best Casada art. I mean, I remember having a Ninjak cover that Casada did, but Ninjak, a very forgettable character, but that's just buy what you like and what you want to look at. I mean, I still have stuff that I want to look at, or that doesn't have much intrinsic value. Everything's pretty much merchandise except my personal pages, and people. I don't even put those out. Being a professional dealer, and I'm like, okay, there is some stuff that I want to keep, and I love Jack Davis. I like Dune. Like I've had a ton of Dune pages. That's Bill Sienkiewicz as well. I have a cover on the wall over there. So I just, buy what you like and what you want to appreciate and look at for that period of time. And when it changes, that's when you sell it. If you bought it for $500 and you sell it and you get into $1,000 piece. And, people graduate up to, just like everybody. Yeah, you graduated from comics to art probably at a certain point, and that's what I did as well.
Yeah. Alex, what is your special piece that's near and dear to you?
Oof, I've got a lot of them, but probably the Daryl Banks Green Lantern art. It was the first piece of art I ever bought. I got it off eBay. I've had Mars and Banks both sign it. It was a cool piece because he was doing overlays for the Green Lantern, the constructs. So it's the regular page, and then there's transparent overlays, and the constructs were on the overlay. So it was 2 pieces. I have it framed. I have it framed for probably about 15 years now, and it goes up in every house I have.
Pretty cool. For me, it's the Jock cover, the Detective 880 cover, which I bought directly from Jock, the Joker cover with the bats flying out of the head. I bought that cover.
Classic.
I think I saw it printed in the catalog. I called Jock up because, he had been to our shows before. His real name is Mark Simpson. He had been to a couple of our shows in Toronto and elsewhere. And I was like, man, I love this cover. So he's like, yeah. And he quoted me like a normal, regular cover price would have been at the time. And I was like, all right, sounds fine, whatever. And I bought it. He goes, the next day he said to me, Stephen, somebody offered me double what I sold it to you for, but I already committed it to you, so I'm going to send it to you. And I don't even want to tell you what somebody offered me for it not too long ago. But
yeah, that's a piece that's huge. Modern piece.
Once I got it, even like people, when you see it up close, the printed piece when you see it in person, it's really a remarkable piece. I did post it on Comic Art Fan, so it's one of those special near and dear grails to me. But Anthony, thank you for coming on our show today. It was very insightful. It was great having you, and hopefully,
anytime.
Maybe we can have you back down the road in the future.
Sure, anytime. I appreciate it. It's always fun talking about it, especially with somebody I have a history like you with.
Great. Thanks so much, Anthony. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Anthony.
Okay, great.
So now we're at that time of the show, and very, very high-tech stuff here, Alex. I'm going to give you a little drum roll.
Here we go.
Can you hear my little drum roll, Alex?
It's very light, but that's good because it'll be very loud in listeners' ears if it was any louder.
It's Alex's pick of the week. Alex, what do you got for us? For us?
So there's a new DC series coming out, and it's called Batman: The Three Jokers. I don't know if you.
Oh my God, Jason Fabok's covers are ridiculous.
They're nuts. Those Joker covers are nuts. But I'm not talking about the books. I'm going to talk about the promo cards that are coming out with the books. So all 3 books during release, there's going to be a promo playing card with Joker and Batman for each issue.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so one side has Joker and he's on the top, and then the flip side is Batman, and it's just a cool little promo they're giving away. And I'll talk about promos, more different kind of promos in Alex's picks in different episodes because there's just so much of it. But I love promo items, and tend to get very rare very fast. You're thinking probably in about 5 years, and this is all kind of died down a little bit and everything's just in graphic novels. These cards are going to switch hands. People are going to throw them away. They're going to get lost. Some stores didn't even get any. Some stores got too much, and they forget them. They leave them in the box. They get tossed. Promo items tend to get missed a lot, and I think people, when they're going back and like, oh, the Three Jokers, one of my favorite stories, like, oh, do you have the promo cards? No. Well, I've got one. Here's $15. Stuff accrues in value, especially promo items, because they're free and they get rid of it.
It's funny. I was just I'm helping my mom clean up around the house a little bit, and we found a box of those a bag of those Green Lantern Emerald rings.
Yeah, the rings. Yeah.
Remember the Green Lantern rings from back in the day? Are those worth anything or no?
Yeah. They were green. Yeah.
So we have a bag of them.
Yeah.
All right, Alex, that's a nice little pick. Mm-hmm. I'll be looking forward to them coming out. So thanks again. This was great. Great having another special guest. We'll see if we're going to go back to CGC stuff in the near future. Maybe we'll have some more special guests. We hope you guys enjoy it. So we will see everybody next week. Same bat time.
Same bat channel.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.